Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, who are online and who are in front. It's only my bad luck that I could not be present in person today for this very important program that you are doing, focusing on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. I have the pleasure to have with me a very power-packed panel, and that's not just a word, it's truly so. 8 scholars from 4 countries. Can you believe that? The only common point, no, we are all South Asian origin. That's the only common point. Otherwise, it's 8 scholars from 4 countries, 4 nations, and some of the leading minds. Let me just in brief give a 1 or 2 lines introduction to the theme. We shall focus on role of media and communication and its contribution with respect to sustainable development goals. Last October, I was in Europe, and one of the dominant theme everywhere, 6 countries had gone, Schengen countries largely, not UK, and everywhere the word sustainability and sustainable was from shopping mall to academic institutes to media organizations on the streets in some form. Sustainability, sustainable products and services keep coming. Very interesting to see that at least in Europe, it has caught up in a big way. I do not know about the other nations. Well, we do have someone who has a big experience in Europe. He might throw more light on that. So this whole concept of engaging media in the domain of sustainable development goals to implement, to execute, and see that there is a large-scale awareness about it. So this task was taken up through a very interesting project of the United Nations. The UN came out with SDG Media Compact. So Sustainable Development Goals Media Compact. So it was announced in September 2018. Around 31 media organizations from around the world, majorly from the Western world, they came together and they decided to leverage media talent and resources to amplify the goals so that people know about it more. So they start following it up more, and accelerate the progress towards achieving the goals by 2030. By now, I'm sure because the inaugural session is over, so everyone is aware. Otherwise, also people are aware. There are 17 goals and 2030 is the goal. 2030 is the target line within which we have to achieve these 17 sustainable development goals. For that, certain quantitative and qualitative measures have also been proposed. I'm not taking time to get into depth of that. There may be other panels focusing on that. So our focus is how can media help in taking these sustainable development goals to the masses. So this SDG Media Compact was made by the UN in 2018 September, as I told. And gradually today, you'll be happy to note 402 media organizations from 161 countries are there, almost leading media houses of the whole world. 402 from 161 countries are there. This has become a powerful device, a driver for action, for advocacy. Action means more in the sense of creating awareness, knowledge, telling the stories, the success stories, because stories inspire more than preaching. So this has become a great driver for that. In 2022 and 23, last 2 years, September 3rd week has been even celebrated because it was launched in September 3rd week of 2018. So the 3rd week has been celebrated as Act for SDGs, hashtag ACT Act for SDGs. And all these media organizations, 400 plus today, they carried several special stories focusing on sustainability, how much it has progressed, what needs to be done next, and all that. So we all know about the transformative power of media, particularly in sustainability. How are the organizations really impacting? How is social media impacting? What are the experiences in various countries, the 4 countries that are being represented here? And what more suggestions are there for media? These are the things that my very esteemed panelists would be focusing on, hopefully. It's my pleasure that I have been asked to moderate by the university where I spent a beautiful 2.5 years as the Pro Vice Chancellor, stayed on campus. So I've been asked to moderate this session. I'm very thankful to them, thankful to the department there. And I would begin with...
Sir, excuse me, sir. So I would like to introduce all the speakers to the audience because we have a number of audience in the
yes.
session.
So I would therefore, before I I was going to call Dr. Dayathusu, but before I call the speakers, I would request the organizers to have short introduction for all. Please note 1:30 is our hard time, hard stop, and we started 12 minutes late. Give brief introduction to all the speakers on behalf of the organizers. Back to you, Swati.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ms. Swati Agarwal, Assistant Professor in the School of Media and Communication, Adamas University. I welcome you all to the plenary discussion in the International Conference on Media and Communication. This conference has been organized by Adamas University in collaboration with Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, Manipur University, DME, Noida, American International University of Bangladesh, HSC University, Moscow, Russia, and the EduGraph. In our interconnected world, the power of media is unparalleled, serving as a catalyst for creating awareness, understanding, and collective action. I'm deeply honored to introduce the doyens of media education who would address the crucial topic of media and communication in the pursuit of sustainable development goals. First, I would like to introduce Professor Usha Rani. Professor Usha Rani is presently a member of Karnataka Higher Education Council, Government of Karnataka, Bangalore. She is a former professor and Dean of Faculty of Arts and an ICSSR Senior Fellow in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication in the University of Mysore. A winner of American Fulbright Fellowship twice and ICSSR International Fellowship, she was also awarded 2 national awards for Best Educational Documentaries. Dr. Amrish Saxena is the professor and dean in the School of Delhi Metropolitan Education, DME, Noida. Dr. ABM Rahmatullah, sir, is the additional director, IQAC, and former associate dean, American International University, Bangladesh. Professor Dayathusu is a professor of international communication at School of Communication, Hong Kong Baptist University. Professor Sonal Pandya is a professor and head of the Department of Communication and Journalism, Central University of Gujarat. Dr. Pooja Mahesh is currently working as an associate professor at the School of Media and Communication, Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Now, I would introduce you to our moderator of today's session, Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary, sir. Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary, sir, is a noted academic and public speaker and writer. He is also the Vice President of Global Media Education Council. Formerly, sir was the strategic advisor of Daffodil University, Bangladesh. He has been the Pro-Vice Chancellor of Adamas University. He was the Dean of School of Media and Communication at Adamas University, Pearl Academy, Amity University, Whistling Woods International. Apart from this, he has a varied experience of working in the media industry.
Thank you.
Sir, I would now request sir to kindly grace the occasion and initiate the session.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Swati. And thank you for finishing it fast. Mine one could be shorter. But anyway, we get into the topic. I've already introduced the topic and a bit on the theme, how UN has taken up through the SDG Media Compact, engaging 402 media organizations across the world, from across 161 countries. But I'm sure every nation separately and various media organizations in every nation and state of India are taking independent steps. And as academics, there can be more ideas that we can work on. September usually is the month of review of the media action with respect to SDG. Without taking any more second even, I will invite Dr. Dayathusu. I have known him from Westminster, from UK. Today he is in Hong Kong. He has already been introduced earlier. He is now with Hong Kong, in Hong Kong with a, let me see the university name also. But sir will himself introduce, but the details and all that. But what is significant is that we are waiting to, let me share this. We are waiting to see sir as the first president of IMCR from the South Asian origin. That would be great to see in near future. So over to you, Dayasar, for discussing this from your experience of working in Europe and working in Asia. How do you look at the media's role with respect to SDGs? Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Also for plugging my IMCR candidature. Uh, um, that if I was elected, that'll be first time there's anybody from non-Western world who gets to be elected to that position. So that'll be first for many reasons. I wanted to actually sort of make some general comments, and then I'll go specifically about the SDGs, because there is a kind of normative view of how media should behave or how politics should behave, and then there is a realistic view of what it is like, what the real situation is on the ground. So Professor Chaudhary talked about Europe and how much sustainability has become a kind of buzzword in certainly in Western Europe and specifically in Germany. But if you look at recent years, like last 2 years, given the Ukraine situation and the energy situation in Germany, they have been importing liquefied gas from United States at 3 times, 4 times cost of what they were getting from Russia. And this gas is actually awfully bad for the environment. And this is a country which goes around the world, lectures people about how to be sustainable. And the ultimate joke is that this government, in current government in Germany, the foreign minister is from the Green Party. So that's why I said there's a normative view and then there's a realistic view. So I think we have to be very careful as academics to be able to see the gap that exists between what ought to be and what is. I fully endorse the idea that media and communications have a very important role in not only highlighting the importance of sustainability, especially in the global south, where it is it's an existential issue. And I'm very grateful that the university, not just in Calcutta, but other institutions which are involved in this conference are highlighting this. This is a crucial point. And I would have loved to be there in person to actually interact with people and see what the level of discussion is, because the outline which was sent to me with different categories of how media could actually influence, for example, awareness, monitoring, policy impact, sustainable practices, partnerships, local dimensions, dealing with misinformation, etc., all extremely crucial and very relevant areas of research. But when you actually look at the existing media structures, not just in South Asia, but more broadly globally, and then you realize that actually there is quite a gap between what ought to be and what is. So, for example, awareness. I mean, you just have to watch television news in India, the prime time news, and see what kind of awareness is being created, not about just the environmental sustainability, but about general issues, the general issues which affect the country or the world. And similarly, the whole idea that there is this press, which is, a monitoring organization whose job is to actually, be accountable to powers to be, and that's been damaged across the world. So I think it is very important to emphasize that rather than idealizing this as something which actually is I mean, sometimes, people like us who are studying media or work for the media, we tend to have a very sort of exaggerated view of its influence. And I think it's important to kind of bring it a notch, down to simply what is actually happening on the ground. Now, I'll just make a few comments about that, what is happening across the world, not just in South Asia, and why sustainability and developmental discourse has really got not only marginalized, but almost is off the agenda, especially in the mainstream media. One of the major sustainable goal of the United Nations is that, we should have sustainable consumption. You only have to, I live in Hong Kong, which is probably the most consumerist society in the world. But if you look around the world in general, you will see the consumption is actually growing to the extent that it's not sustainable. And if you again think of the media, the mainstream media, and think of what actually sustains it, it is not the price you pay for a newspaper or subscription you pay for a television channel. It's advertising. And what are they advertising? They're advertising us to consume things that we don't need. So then the following question is, the related question is, what happens when most, if not all, most people are driving their own cars in a country like China or India? And we're talking about 3 billion people. Where are the resources to make that happen? And how many more Iraqs we will need to invest? Then you realize that this normative idea of that, the sustainability is crucial. Nobody's denying that. But our policies and our structures of the media almost around the world are going in the reverse direction. And as more and more people join this race to be a better consumer, I feel very skeptical that it's going to do anything much to make a difference on the ground. The final point I'll make, because I know the time is limited, is that the UN itself is a problematic institution, as we all know. Professor Chaudhary mentioned how many countries are involved, how many media organizations are involved. He also mentioned most of them are Western organizations. And then you have to ask, why are they interested in sustainability? Right? There must be, at the same time, they're producing this whole, just look at the difference between Ukraine and Gaza, right? They talk about one of the sustainable goal is peace in the world. And just look at the contrast between two cases. In one case, the former case, the victims are heroes. In the second case, the victims are villains. And we've just seen, actually, this week, that the UN body, which is supposed to help Palestinians, Western governments have cut their aid for it, suspended the aid, at least for the moment. So when you talk about peace, justice, so one has to take that into account. I think which finally leads to the question of who has that power and how that power is exercised. And I think it's absolutely crucial for especially the developing countries, for Global South, to raise those questions, that to go beyond the kind of cosmetic view of what sustainability is and look at what is actually happening on the ground. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very pertinent question. What ought to be done versus what is being done? And very rightly said that while the sounds and the noise made on sustainability by and large is right, but the practice on ground, and taking example of the geopolitics of today and the two wars going on, and how the world media, the world in general, look differently at the victims of the two wars just now going on between Ukraine and Russia and Palestine and Israel, he has really brought to light the duplicacy or duplicity that we have in this particular scenario, how the governments and people look at reality and what they advocate otherwise. So indeed, there is a big dichotomy there. Having said that, certain Indian media also have been doing reasonably good job in bringing this to the notice of people. For example, one quick example that comes to my mind is NDTV's repeated telethons on climate change and pollution, air pollution, has been quite a success story in India, though for the last 1 year they haven't done earlier. If after pandemic, the world comes, the global community and the nations do not rise up to the situation, it's really foolhardy. Going ahead, I have our guest from Bangladesh, Dr. Rahmatullah. Dr. Rahmatullah is very well known to the Adamas community because they have a very good understanding on academics and other issues, MOU and exchange programs. There he had visited, if I'm not wrong, he has visited Calcutta and the university campus sometime earlier. He comes from American International University, Bangladesh. And I had the pleasure of and the good fortune of meeting the founder back 1 year ago in Dubai in a common program. We were on the same panel. So it's great to have Dr. Rahmatullah. Bangladesh is for those in Bengal, because largely the audience will be, I presume, will be Bengali speaking. Those in Bengal, we have a tie of heart, language, culture, cuisine, music, everything with Bangladesh. And the 2 years I spent in Bangladesh was extraordinary. The amount of hospitality the people do is fabulous. With respect to media also, it has grown a lot. But I won't get into that. Let Dr. Rahmatullah introduce us to how the media is looking at SDGs with special reference to Bangladesh. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity and for your introduction. Yes, I was in Adamas University. That was in September last year. I still have very warm memories. Dear moderator, distinguished panelists, respected participants, my warm regards to you all. And I would like to congratulate the School of Media and Communication of Adamas University for this international conference. And I wish all the success of this conference and hope that outcome of this conference will be very fruitful and productive. I thank the organizing committee for including me in this panel. As sir, you were saying about, we all know the theme of this conference and the theme of this panel discussion. Let me look at few issues that what is the role of media to attain SDG? The media has a crucial role in achieving SDGs by serving as a catalyst for accountability, advocacy, and awareness. And the media is an important tool for information dissemination, public education, and instilling a sense of urgency about global issues. So we all know that if the media, like holding corporations, communities, and government responsible for their deeds and advancement toward the SDGs, that it will be a very vital function for the media. And through giving voices to underrepresented groups and illuminating the achievements and obstacles, the media can impact policy choices and promote the expected behavior among all the stakeholders. So if we look at the contribution of media and communication for achieving SDGs, these SDGs are greatly advanced by media and communication because they promote cooperation, global awareness, and the influence of policies. And the communication platforms have the ability to impact policymaking as well. So making sure that the decision makers are educated in line with SDGs. So communication and the media are very essential resources for the global effort to achieve the SDGs. And how does research on media and communication that helps to attain the SDGs? If we look at this, the research on communication and the media is very essential to achieving the SDGs. And it facilitates the creation of focused communication strategy by illuminating the influence of media messages on the public awareness and the behavior. A sense of shared responsibility is fostered by the efficient dissemination of information and the SDGs through a variety of media platforms. And if we look at the recent trends, the recent trend shows that the research on media and communication is changing with emerging trends. Like social media analytics is becoming more and more important as it examines how user-generated materials affect the public opinion. Then immersion storytelling is changing as a result of the popularity of virtual and augmented reality, which is also changing how viewers interact with the content. The merging of media and technology is encouraging the multidisciplinary research. The academics are investigating how the digital transformation of this traditional media, which may affect the journalism, advertising, and the audience behavior. There are some challenges. If I look at the challenges for the media and communication research to attain SDGs, what we see, the quickly changing the digital landscape, which presents the problems for media and the communication study. And for accurate reporting is threatened by the spread of false information, as very nicely the example given by our earlier panelist, that about the example of Ukraine and Gaza. Like the false information, the spread that, the researchers must negotiate the challenges of identifying the truth. As the communication technology develop, the privacy concerns and the ethical considerations are also becoming very pressing. So the media world is always changing, which makes it difficult to create long-term frameworks for research because they require ongoing change. And how we can overcome the barriers of this, the problem that we have just discussed, the challenges. The interdisciplinary cooperation is essential to overcoming the obstacles in the media and communication research and adopting the technological innovations that enables the academics to address the issues like disinformation and adjust to changing the communication environments. If you look at further, the developing international collaborations that will help to bridge the gaps in the global access by promoting cross-cultural insights. And the ethical issues that also we cannot overlook. The researchers in the field of media and communication, they will also uphold the strict ethical standards to prevent the unfavorable results. And retaining the transparency in research method, the data collection, analysis, that guarantees the validity of the results, and it will help to reduce the biasness. So the media and communication research that can preserve the integrity of their work and that can make a constructive contribution to the growth of knowledge and help us to attain the SDGs. If we look at the media and communication research that contributes towards SDG, the advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals is greatly aided by the media and communication research, which raise awareness, which promote discussion and shapes the policy. So the scholars contribute to the inclusive communication strategies by revealing the socio-cultural differences that influence the media consumption and ensuring that no one is left behind in the pursuit of the SDGs. So let me conclude. Like to sum up, we can say that the SDG offer a thorough and ambitious plan of action for tackling the most important issues facing the planet. And reaching these objectives, it needs the teamwork, cooperation, and dedication to leaving no one behind. And this media and communication, through media and communication research, we are hopeful that we can positively attain the goal by 2030. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. You brought a new perspective completely. Media research process and how they are changing, particularly, and how they are influencing the public opinion on SDGs. Very categorically, Dr. Rahmatullah noted that the role of social media and immersive media have reason that traditional media's impact on public opinion has gone down. And the social media, while a mass content, people-generated content is there, influencing the public opinion, much of that also has false content. What we call as fake news, because if it is fake, it cannot be news. If it is news, it cannot be fake. So I would rather call it false content. He has drawn our attention very correctly to this disinformation spate that's going on currently. And he has also talked about reducing media bias and creating research of media interdisciplinary, because with the technology convergence with media, we have immersive media coming up, VR and AR, augmented reality and virtual reality have created situations when you cannot actually differentiate between truth and falsehood. And there are positive sides also, that you can visualize things which you cannot see in front of you. You can actually visualize that as well. So there is something called deepfake has come in a big way. I've been seeing so many videos on deepfake, particularly with political content. So these areas require a lot of attention today, and hence I would uh, uh, coin the word, I mean, it's already known to everyone that we need a strong sense of media literacy to really fight this menace of disinformation. Without taking any more time, I just uttered the word media literacy, and someone who is very strong on working on media literacy, I would call him next, Dr. Ambrish Saxena, who has been with several Delhi-based educational institutes, but currently the dean of a four-ranking college of management, law, and media learning, and it's called DME Academy under Indraprastha University. And interestingly, he has made a great use of the pandemic period to create an international film festival, an international conference, academic conference, both online, and a record of sorts by taking the international conference across two countries and 4 cities. That's very rare by a college to have done that. He is also the secretary of Global Media Education Council. We just had a get together in Delhi also on that. So I request Dr. Ambrish Saxena to throw light on this area. And I have learned a lot from him on media literacy. Maybe let's share more on that. Over to you, Dr. Saxena.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. Definitely nobody would disagree the whole concept about sustainability and sustainability and sustainable development concept is not new. But since the time the United Nations has endorsed it in a big way, then in most of the academic institutions and elsewhere, people have gradually started the understanding that how much this sustainable development is vital for our lives. In media courses across Indian University, the development communication papers used to be there, then more emphasis now has been put on sustainable development. Very recently, I attended a conference which was on sustainable development only, and that was organized by an NGO that also puts forth the point that the non-governmental organizations are also concerned that this is an area wherein more and more debate, more and more understanding has to be developed. But certain things I would like to point out here. I will agree with whatever was said by Professor there. And earlier also, I have been emphasizing on this aspect that on one hand, the United Nations has propagated all these sustainable goals and expect that there is more awareness on these issues. On the other hand, the same organization is sitting idle and letting two wars happen at the same time. So this is completely paradoxical. Both the things cannot happen at the same time. Either you endorse sustainable development, then you have to stop wars. Now, the war is something which finally undone all those efforts which have been happening, which are being undertaken, and which will happen in future as far as sustainable development is concerned. And any war will take the world at least what I believe, at least 100 years backward. Now, what is the role of media and communication in this situation? Now, talking about media, when I say media, I mean, I'm referring to mainstream media and also the digital space. The mainstream media has miserably failed, particularly the television. There may be some few examples, as Professor Chaudhary was pointing out, the role of the NDTV, maybe one channel, maybe one or two newspapers. But if you take the mainstream media as a whole, whether India, or I believe whatever I read and I have found on the digital space, the media, the way that these things are being covered, the war and the related things. There is, I mean, no emphasis on the development aspect. And the world is divided, the media is divided whether to support the cause of Palestine and denounce the war, or to support the cause of the Israel, since they are being portrayed as victims. But overall, I find, and in particular in the Indian context, Indian media, at least 70, 80%, 90% of the media is standing by the side of Israel. And why so? Because our government has supported the Israeli cause. Now, in such a situation, in media, we all understand that during the British period, the media was uh, more or less was anti-establishment, but after that, that did not remain the same, and particularly during surrender to the political dispensation. In such a situation, if the government says that this site is right, I mean, the Israel is to be supported, then entire media is supporting Israel, or earlier the things were the other way around. But my question here is whether media is doing something on this issue as far as development is concerned, whether media is taking its own stand, and whether media is creating some such service to the people wherein it was trying or it is trying to create an understanding among the people that if development is to be carried forward, not only in India but the entire globe, then obviously we have to do certain such actions that the pressure is built to finish the war. The same is the case with the Ukraine and the Russian war. We have to be very, very clear. If we look at the West, the kind of disservice that they are doing to the world and to the cause of development, that they are supporting one war and they are criticizing the other war. This kind of attitude will not work. Media's role is to expose this and to tell the people what the political leaders in different countries are doing. Now, talking about communication or the academic part or the research part, I don't understand knowledge is limited to whatever things are happening, I'm exposed to, I'm saying this on that behalf. But then the kind of momentum should have been created by the media institutions. That has not happened. At least I have not seen in any Indian university that somebody is denouncing the war and somebody is supporting the cause of development. It is a welcome thing that this topic has been chosen for this panel of Adamas University conference. But I believe more is to be done, more research, more academic orientations, more seminars, more workshops, and some kind of sensitization should be done by us, by all the teachers, irrespective where we are working, among the students. I myself have taken 2 sessions on this issue with my students in my institute, but more sensitization, more awareness has to be created that if world has to be taken forward, if development cause has to be supported, then we have to see to this that peace remains. Without peace, no development, no sustainable development, and nothing will happen, nothing will move. I finished with the words here.
Thank you. Thank you. You have focused more on the war and its negative impact on sustainability, which we are all aware of. And though I will dispute a bit if 90% of India is supporting Israel, I'm not very sure of that. But nevertheless, the argument is very clear that much more needs to be done. Wars completely need to be avoided. Diplomacy is the only way out. And sustainability as a cause must go to every campus. And that must be seen not only in seminars and webinars, which are very important, but also in the way the campus runs, how waste is managed, how green is the campus, how much of sunlight use is being done and how much of electricity, how renewable energy is produced on the campus. There are several examples, and Green U metric ranking of universities in the world talks about sustainability ranking of universities, which is a fabulous thing. Now, I find that even QS ranking has started a sustainability component of university ranking. These are important things because when world takes note of your sustainability practices, the universities also get more encouraged to do that. Going ahead, I will invite Dr. Sonal Pandya will have the first lady voice in this panel. And I'm very happy that this is not a manel, but a panel. This is not just of men. That would have been totally wrong. And I thank and congratulate the university organizers, the program organizers to have done a justice with a very good, well-rounded panel. So Dr. Sonal Pandya a very strong voice of communication from India, and particularly from Gujarat. Sorry. Calcutta has been very cold this time, by the way. It's some days it's as cold as Delhi. So we'll have Dr. Sonal Pandya, who heads Media and Communication, Gujarat University, a very well-known researcher, very well-known speaker in various conferences. She will share her perspectives. Dr. Sonal Pandya, please.
Respected Ujjwal Chaudhary sir and respected panelists, I think I'll not give a much background. I'll come on my point directly because we all are agree for the importance and significance of this conference. Long back, I did my PhD on environmental communication, and my major finding was that basically environment is not an issue. The imbalances in ecosystem is an issue. So it is a issue of a pure science. When it leads to the problem of imbalance, which is affecting the life of people, then it is the subject of a social science. And while media is giving coverage to this issue, it's a question of the language sciences. So those who want to practice the media and communication, I think he and she should be having a knowledge and comfort zone in sciences, social sciences, and language sciences as well. So think apart, that is environment. We all are agree that the consciousness about the environment, which we can see in the conferences and papers, we are not able to see into the action. And professor from Singapore also mentioned about the UN goal of a sustainable development. When I visited the Europe, that I have seen that continuously people were talking about the sustainable practices and how company can be manufactured and so on. That time I also mentioned that the Gandhian value, that when we talk about from the India, not merely the India, when we talk about the different model of a development, it is a universal model that he advocated, that live simply though other may simply live. While we are talking about the resource crisis, we all feel that we always go for the environment friendly practices, but what about our consumption pattern? And that's why I would like to emphasize, Ujjwal sir, that the priority issues of the developing nations are completely different as of now. Because from 1972, the Stockholm Conference and Lady Brundtland Commission reports, our common future, the sustainable world has came, and conceptually we realize that it is not just the protecting the environment, it is a social, it is the question of the executions and all. So while we talk about, otherwise the whole world is doing that during the conference, I think Bill Clinton said that American lifestyle is not negotiable. Let us discuss the rest of the things. So you sustain and we develop. So that is not the sustainable development. It is the inclusive process. And undoubtedly, media has to play the very, very important role. I'm not saying that Media and Media Education Institute, because since last 3 years, we are teaching the SDG goal and media paper, especially core paper in my university. And I definitely feel that it gives the holistic perspective to the student while they've gone through the 17 important parameters of SDG goal. The question is what we supposed to do. First of all, we all are now not in living with the information poor and information rich. We are living with the content, and a lot of content from the various channels of a social media. I think we are living in the credibility crisis, not the content crisis. So the role of academic institution is how and what are the parameters to decide the credibility as far as the environmental issues are concerned. Because we all know that mainstream media is not just a part and parcel of the corporate, but it itself is a corporate. So they have to consider the corporate interest, political interest may be always there. You can see that still in a country like India, the migration is a big issue. Environmental refugees are a big issue. These issues are highly highlighted in a main page or the primetime news in television as well. So while we talk about the media, I think a content crisis is not there, but the credibility crisis is very much there. My very second and brief issue is simplification of a data. Because Dr. Chaudhary has introduced me as a female candidate or the gender balance. You know, the Gujarat state is economically wealthy, but we are lag behind in the social development parameters, and adverse sex ratio is one of the major reasons. So when we discuss the sex ratio issue with the highest adverse sex ratio districts, they were not able to understand what is the sex ratio and why it is adverse. One of the gentlemen from the local community, he said that your boy will not get the girl to marry. So he was not, the local people understood immediately. And I realized that the role of media education as well, that if we want to create the users-friendly information, we have to simplify the data as well. And that is another role that we have to play. And third very important thing, because people already talked about the research ethics, so I'm not touching those issues, but the behavioral, social and behavioral change communication. I think we all have to agree that for framing the policy and policy execution, we badly require the social and behavioral change communication, because we all know, but while it practice the environment friendly practices, you have to consider that why people are not practicing those things. From example of the lifestyle of energy consuming or the plastic use. So behavioral, social and behavioral change communication, we have to focus more on those issues. Looking at the mainstream media, I think we can definitely think for the hyper-local journalism as well. Because when we talk about the monopoly of the media, and media monopoly is a big challenge, we have a lot of choices for the expression after social media revolution. But even though we are not completely independent for the information sources itself, I think when we talk about the knowledge society, we must have an independent knowledge society as well. And hyper-local journalism and hyper-local media is one of the answers. And we need to do the more research on that area. So not going into the detail of the other topic, because taking the time of other candidates.
Yes, kindly close it now. Yeah.
When we talk about the digital and digital platform, I think we generally talk about what is possible to the media. We can do this. We can see the forest of Brazil, and we can go to the wildlife of Tanzania, and we can go to the Narmada river, whatever. What is possible, it is, we all know that technology created the miracle, but what is desirable? And I think for the country like India, environment is not just a discussion topic in the conference, it's a survival lifestyle of all. So in that context, I think media is having the significant role, and I suggested few suggestions in my time. I think we'll meet some in other platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very important points you have picked up. Imbalance in the ecosystem, socio-economical ecosystem, leads to challenges in ecology. So ecology is not an independent thing by itself. It's a function there. The Gandhian value of simple lifestyle, which is much more sustainable. Undoubtedly, India gave that model, but many Indians themselves have not been following that up now. You sustain, we develop is a wrong approach. Yes, the Western world often has been talking about to the developing world that you sustain, you take the steps more. But let's develop, focus on that. Can't be done. But on the other hand, we cannot follow the Western model of development of indiscriminate use of the resources. That also has to be looked at. Even within our country also, there are different classes of one which consumes heavily and expects the larger masses to contribute to sustainability. Credibility crisis in media, not merely the content not merely the content number or quantum, but the credibility of the content. Major issue. This was also picked up earlier by Dr. Rahmatullah when he was speaking about fake disinformation. That part was there. very rightly pointed, data journalism is a major issue today. How do you simplify data and make them understandable to the common masses? So masses go on emotions mode. How do you really bring data which is acceptable in this whole scenario of emotion-driven mindset? Hyperlocal journalism and what is possible and desirable, the contest between them. These two are also good ideas. Hyperlocal journalism, due to the rise of social media, due to the rise of the internet, we are now seeing hyperlocal journalism happening in cities, in villages, their own media platforms, which also has a dedicated viewership, readership, or listenership. That's very interesting to see. There will always be conflict between what is possible and what is desirable. Indeed, desirability is the question of ethics. Possibility is the question of resources, and there will be a conflict between the two. We move to the next panelist from Dubai, distant Dubai. We're staying in Middle East for a very long time. We have Pooja Madam here. Can I request her to Dr. Pooja Mahesh from what do you call this? From Mahe, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Manipal University, Dubai campus. I had the pleasure of listening to her a couple of times earlier also online, and we hope that sometime face-to-face also we'll meet and talk. That would be very interesting. So over to Dr. Pooja Mahesh from Dubai.
Thank you, sir. Today I'm really honored to speak about the subject that's both vital and inspiring. And I would first of all begin with the UAE's approach to sustainable development goals. And in terms of UAE, if we talk about its commitment to sustainability, innovation, and global partnership, it has taken a major role. And if we see in the very fabric of its policy, it has embedded the sustainable development goals. And being here for over 8 years now, I have seen some of these bold steps which have been taken by UAE in this area. So one being reducing the dependence on the fossil fuel, which is there. And they have been investing in the large-scale renewable energy project, which is Maktoum bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Project, Solar Park. Then in terms of education, they are integrating innovative and technological progresses in the sector of education. In terms of COVID, we saw the healthcare facilities that the government has engaged in and how they handled the crisis. Then in terms of the gender balance, in the council itself, we see how the gender balance is maintained and slowly and gradually it is being propagated in the mainstream as well. In terms of economical structure, if we see, there is a lot of diversification which is happening. And over the years, I have seen it actually growing in the region. So that's another step which they are taking, which they have taken. And then their investment in the sustainable urban development. So in terms of the sustainable projects, if we see, they have come up with a sustainable city itself. Now, besides UAE, I would also like to emphasize on the role that media is taking in terms of the sustainable development goal and the emphasis, taking the cue from Dr. Ambesh Saxena mentioned and a few other panelists did mention. So the media research has been done. And in this area, I really like the paper done by Simon Cottle on this, Framing Disaster, the Commodification of Suffering in the Digital Age. And I think it's very topical, like how the disaster is being framed, particularly while we have talked about the Israel-Palestine issue. So media has a major role when it is covering the humanitarian crisis, because it impacts how the policy decisions are taken by the government, by the international organizations that are aiding those countries, by the other governments who are supporting or not supporting a particular region. So these are the major concerns which are there, which should be looked up. Besides that, what I feel is that in terms of bridging the gap, whether it is in terms of education, in terms of education, healthcare, emphasis should be there on participatory development communication. So that will create a major transformation in terms of whatever sustainable development goals are being taken. And emphasis should be also on the community media, a lot of work which is being done in the developing nations, particularly in this sector. So with this, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing out certain specific Middle Eastern examples, policies, particularly with respect to UAE, and also bringing home once again the issue of the war and its impact on the negative impact on sustainability. Particularly your points on what UAE government is taking as sustainable development goals and how is it being reflected in the society there are very significant contribution to this discussion and discourse. I have now an stalwarts coming here, stalwart as a speaker. I know he's in person there. He has already spoken in the inaugural session, but I wanted the people online to speak first and sir to take up now. Interestingly, Professor K.G. Suresh, a very close friend and a mentor to thousands of youngsters today. His university has more than 1 lakh students studying media communication and information technology. Extraordinary effort that goes on in Makhanlal Chaturvedi, Asia's largest university in media and communication. He has been also, as we all know perhaps, that the Director General of IIMC Delhi, Government of India's own initiative in media education, media and communication education. So Professor K.G. Suresh, the Vice Chancellor of Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, and also the President of Global Media Education Council and the speaker of the inaugural session of this program earlier today, would now speak, and he'll speak in person there. He's present there at the venue. Over to you, Suresh sir.
Thank you, Ujjalda. I was listening to all the previous eminent speakers, all my distinguished friends. And I believe that the digital age has finally arrived because, being physically present, you are the odd one out. Most of the people are online. And I also see most of the students who are present here also, they are online. They are all looking at their mobile phones. I hope they are looking at the YouTube channel only very closely. And I think that, before I come, I just needed to, because I represent a government institution, just a clarification in terms of, as a policy, India is not supporting the Israeli cause. India is committed to the Palestinian cause. And the only thing is that India is opposed to terrorism, and that to cross-border terrorism, which was witnessed in the case of the Hamas attack on, it was not a non-state actor perpetrating, violence on another state. So I thought that, and India was among the first countries to rush relief to the Palestinians, and it continues to, but it cannot support cross-border terrorism because we ourselves are victims. Because if we support Hamas, then what can we talk about Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen and the likes? Anyways, coming to the second part, the sustainable development goals that you're talking about, I believe that it's very important that media, talks about these issues. Unfortunately, at the global level, we have been at the GMAC also, we have been calling for a new information order, a global information order, which talks about the requirements and the priorities of the developing world, of the developing South, as against being the voice of the developed countries. One of the major reasons for this is that the transnational media houses, are still owned and operated by Western countries. Countries like India, despite its, a lot of achievements in technology and other domain, we are yet to have our own global platform where we can showcase our concerns, our aspirations. So it is important that developing nations also develop their own communication networks, global communication networks, which should disseminate their point of view, their perspective to the rest of the world. Otherwise, the Western narrative continues to dominate. That's number one. Number two, I believe that as has been mentioned by all the my previous distinguished speakers, we need to now talk about community media in a big way, because we have been having a lot of expectation from the so-called mainstream media, which is mostly urban-centric. As against this, it is important that we support, community media, as is the case in many countries of even the West, which includes community radio, community newspapers. A couple of initiatives have been taken in India also, like Gaon Connection, Khabar Lahariya, and about over 200 community radio stations which are reaching out to, but that's a drop in the ocean. It's very important that media gets into the IEC model, that's information, education, and communication, as against the entertainment model that we are currently obsessed with. I believe that the Indian media particularly is obsessed with politics. Governance is important. Politics is just a part of it. But we are obsessed with politics, whereas we should be talking about governance. We need to understand the distinction between the two. And we are talking about good governance. That plays a critical role in promoting sustainable development goals. The media not only has to inform and educate, but also has to inspire. A lot of good work is being done at the grassroots level by a lot of organizations and many individuals. But are these stories being told? I believe that the mainstream media doesn't consider it important enough to showcase these stories. Not that these stories are not there. I'm on the panel of so many prestigious juries, including the Ramnath Goenka Award for Excellence in Journalism. And I see some wonderful stories, investigative stories related to pollution, related to corruption, related to deforestation, related to environment being done both in alternative media, that means digital media in a big way, and also in language media. I believe that there should be a platform which should translate and bring to all the readers the excellent stories that are being done in the language media. Unfortunately, when we talk about mainstream media, we generally talk about the English media, whose numbers are certainly not growing, and which is confined to an elite segment of the society. Whereas if we want to make sustainable development part of our lives, it is important that the language media takes it to the grassroots. A lot of good work is being done, but that's not good enough. We need to promote sustainable development goals through the language media, which is growing, manifold. Its readership is growing, its viewership is growing. So we need to tap on that. We also need to harness the power of the social media in a big way. We have a lot of digital, content creators, a lot of mobile journalists. Mojo has become the in thing today across the country, even in small districts and villages. But what is lacking is quality content. We need to train, upskill the journalists and communicators at the grassroots level, not only in terms of technology. And that is where my main issue is, because a lot of media education has now become technocentric. The content has to be the focus. Content is the king. Content will always be the king and the queen and the prince and the princess. So it's very important that we give a lot of emphasis on content creation. Quality content creation has to be the focus rather than technology, because if content is there, then certainly it can create very powerful messages which can change bring about change in mindsets, change in attitude, people's attitude. Government action is certainly important, but for very important missions like Swachh Bharat to become successful, it is pertinent that they become people's movement. And I can say, and that's the last point I would like to say, in my own state of Madhya Pradesh, Indore is the cleanest city in the country. And my city, Bhopal, is the cleanest capital city of the country. If this has not happened only because of the government's initiatives, the municipality or the municipal council, but because of the proactive involvement of the citizens, that has led to this kind of a success. So despite Madhya Pradesh being a developing state only, it is not a very developed state. It is on way. But this has happened because of the awareness created by the media. I'm sure that this can serve as a model in other aspects of life too, in promoting SDGs in the country. So media can play a critical role. On that note, I thank you, Ujjwalda, for inviting me to address this august audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The invitation was from Adamas University. I'm just moderating. So, thank you very much. Very pertinent. I will just quickly, for the sake of the audience, mention 2 or 3 key points that Professor Suresh has highlighted. NICO, New International Information and Communication Order. NICO is required because what we know as truth is what the Western media has been largely peddling and what other media, non-Western media, have repeated. So NICO, this idea is a strong idea. It's not that it's come up just now, but it has not been realized yet. And the Western narratives keep dominating. Second, community media. Dr. Pandya has spoken about hyper-local journalism. On the same lines, community media and very good examples, Gaon Connection. My dear students who are there, please look up on the internet about Gaon Connection and Khabar Lahariya. It is very important that you see that how media initiatives at the grassroots are coming up, sustaining both in revenue and viewership, readership, and they're doing pretty well. So Gaon Connection, Khabar Lahariya. Similarly, there are community radio stations in Bhuj, in many other places, in Chhattisgarh, many other places, how the local tribal people or women of Bhuj, for example, are running Bhuj, Kutch district of Gujarat. They are running community radio. Fabulous. I also would like to mention that a country like Nepal, which has only 3.5 crores population, 3.5 crores population, just to give an idea, West Bengal itself has 9 crore population. This 1/3 of the population of West Bengal. It has 346 radio stations. There are radio stations in every district and 75 districts, now 77 districts are there, 346 radio stations. Government has been liberal also. In our case, there are certain limitations on the policy sector. In Nepal, interestingly, I found one radio station. It's called Chunumunu FM. Chunumunu is about children. They call the children as Chunumunu. So the radio station anchor, scriptwriter, interviewer, all are below 14 years of age. Yeah, and they're interviewing the Prime Minister of the country also, the local biggies and all that. It is there in the Tarai region of Nepal. Very interesting. And they actually bring not just this radio station, all the 346 together. There are interesting perspectives. There's one radio station called Sagarmatha radio station, which is completely devoted to development journalism, sustainability, and all those issues. So these are fabulous examples in our own backyard, in South Asia itself. Then very rightly said, Professor Suresh, obsession with politics in Indian mainstream journalism to the detriment of understanding governance and development more. So yes, and very nice differentiation between governance and politics has been done. This is another important factor. Grassroots stories of development investigation are largely blacked out of the mainstream. Please understand, the mainstream has become a major corporate media. I think this point was also mentioned by Dr. Sonal Pandya briefly. Corporatization of media has led to media being, I remember one of the guys from Times of India had told, and our newspaper is an advertisement paper, and where we don't find to fill up the spaces, Between two ads, we put news. So it's the news is secondary, the ads are primary. And this was officially, or not officially, means publicly told by one of the business leaders of Times of India in the past. So this has become the reality. So let's look at the alternate media. And alternate media, as has been rightly mentioned earlier, the alternate media has become, particularly by Dr. Rahmatullah, this coming in of immersive content and coming in of the 2 points he brought out, immersive content and social media. This has brought the importance or significance of mainstream media much lower, much lower. The way OTT has come and the impact of television serials have gone down, and even to an extent, the impact of cinema, regular cinema, has gone down. Similarly, this immersive media and social media has become, I don't know, sometime later, they may become the mainstream media in a way. At least the mainstream media is taking note of that. In fact, the tweets of the Prime Minister and Man Ki Baat in radio are the sources of news for every other media. So means not just that, even Amitabh Bachchan's blogs and tweets, L.K. Advani's blogs earlier, a few years earlier, were a major source of news. So the alternative factor of news platforms coming up. Platform not being excellent stories from grassroots. This is another fabulous idea, to create an online platform where the best stories of various other different media can come and be represented for a larger audience. If this can be done, this can be done by any university, can be done by any business organization, any NGO, or even an association of institutes. If this can be done, this would be a fabulous thing to happen. I will, there are our hard stop, 7 minutes are there. I'll request 1 minute only each speaker to speak about what suggestions you have for educational institute. This is being organized in a university, and we all represent various universities and educational institutes. What role can the universities or educational institute do to increase awareness and also involvement in sustainable development goals or sustainability in general? Just 1 minute only. We have 7-8 minutes to go. And I begin with Dr. Dayathusu first.
Thank you. I would just say that one word kind of summarizes it. It is quality. In this field in which I've been now for 30 years, I think India is still has lots to do. There's this beautiful couplet which I might use, apologies for people whose Hindi may not be as good, is from a poet called Ashok Chakradhar. Some of you may know his work. He's a fantastic poet and writer. He says, ना ईंटों से ना गारे से घर बनता है घर वालों से. So you need people of quality, people with ideas. They're not doing derivative work. They're not doing what the European NGOs ask them to do, but do something which is genuinely rooted in as complex and as exciting a place as India.
Thank you.
And I think if that happens, then they'll be replicated across the global south.
Quality people. Thank you very much. Dr. Rahmatullah, one suggestion for the universities to bring in sustainability to the fore.
Thank you, sir, for your giving me the floor once again. Just what we do in AIUB, we say clean campus, green energy, reduce waste. So these are the things we are actually teaching our students. So students must learn from the university itself. And then about the media, the ethics, that is also what we are teaching. So what we think that the students should look at the campus, they will keep it clean, they will follow the targets and the goals. I hope that we will be achieving it by 2030. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Clean campus, green campus, waste management to the front. That's fabulous. That's exactly what QS Sustainable Universities parameters are. That's what exactly green numeric ranking of universities looks at. Dr. Ambrish Saxena.
Yeah, I believe that students has to be brought to the forefront. We organize all kind of academic discourses wherein we speak and the students are simply receiving or listening to what we are doing. Instead, they should be brought to the front. They can be guided, they can be supervised, but then they should be in the front position to decide as to what kind of activities are desired to understand the sustainable development goals, and they themselves should be into organizing such kind of activities like we do in our institutions, some seminar on water conservation, some seminar on environment protection, or doing plantation themselves. Such kind of activities we should allow students to take up on their own, so that a momentum is created in education institution.
Great.
And it should be a more active environment created.
Right. So students-driven initiatives actively, that is the focus. Dr. Sonal Pandya.
See, we all talked about the, we talked about the alternative media, but basically, historically also, we were preparing the media professional for the mainstream media. So in context of, we hardly think about the diversity of our newsroom. And some of the grassroots level issues are not coming in the mainstream media because all the journalists are coming from the middle class urban background. So I think we have to teach them the empathy learning, because now seeing is not believing. In development communication, feeling is believing. If you live with the migrant of the Narmada, then you can feel the price of the water in your glass, which is you are drinking. I think we have to work on the empathy learning module, and not just seeing is believing, feeling is believing.
Great.
And,
very good lesson. Empathy learning. From seeing is believing to feeling is believing. Thank you. Dr. Pooja Mahesh.
I believe most important thing is media literacy. So as students of media and communication, they can propagate how media literacy is important, how each individual who is not aware of how to decipher the messages which are there in media. So I think media literacy can play a key role.
Great. In fact, I wanted to end this session with talking on media literacy, but that you have already noted very rightly. Media literacy at the grassroots is the only way to sensitize the learning community, not just the learning community, even the society at large. Professor Suresh.
Sir, hello. So Professor Suresh sir is not here. He is occupied in another meeting.
Mind. So I'll conclude this session on
recording stopped.
Key points by mentioning the key points that in this concluding round, every speaker has told. Quality people. Creating quality people will create a rippling effect, as Dr. Dayathusu has rightly said. So universities have a major role in creating quality people who will take the message out there. Clean campus, green campus, west to best. As a policy, clean campus is a policy every university should take up. In fact, Adamas University, where the program is happening, is quite a green campus. And there are a lot of initiatives on west to best or best management being done there. I had seen myself, I've been part of many of them. And this can, in fact, it can be actually applying for some international ranking on green campus. So there are many other aspects also. Actually, UNESCO has come out, and U-Metric Green has come out with 24 or 25 parameters of a green campus. If we actually implement all, it will be a fabulous campus indeed. Student-driven initiatives is a very, very right thing. Today, education is no more top-down. It's top-down and bottoms-up, both together. So it's no more unidirectional. It's multi-directional. So Dr. Saxena has very rightly noted about student-driven initiatives to bring sustainability as a culture among students, and it will have a rippling effect in the society at large. Empathy learning. You know, many a time we see poverty, but we don't feel the poverty. Many a time we go to the villages only to click a few pictures of some lake or trees and roadside shops and all, without actually understanding their life and the issues involved, and even the beauty of their lives, not just the crisis alone. Crisis perhaps is far more in our urban lives. So empathy learning, not just seeing but feeling, that's the critical point. And very rightly said, Madam Pooja, media literacy. Media literacy where you create an awareness of right and wrong aspects of media, good and bad advertisements, good and bad films, how to identify false content masquerading as news, and how to take issues closer to the people, how to understand what are the issues closer to the people. manufactured news versus real grassroots news, the differentiation between the two. This sort of things can only come through various levels of media literacy. Thank you very much, panelists. This is a very erudite, knowledgeable panel. I have also enjoyed noting down 4 pages of notes. Like a good student of Dr. Dayathushu, I have taken 4 pages of notes of all the critical. I can write an article now, write an article on the theme, even quoting many of you. With a little bit of 5 or 10, 2-3 hours of research, in addition to these points, I can come out with at least a newspaper article, if not a journal article, obviously. Thank you very much. I think the youngsters there might have also enjoyed. The organizers, thank you very much for organizing it so smoothly. And indeed, the digital has arrived. It was a blended program with audience and one speaker in public, in person, and the rest of the speakers online. Thank you very much. Back to you. I think I finished it 1:32, 2 minutes extra taken. We started 12 minutes late. Thank you and bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.